Middlekauff!
Hey, behaves!
On the video, you can't tell if I'm playing the drums or the maracas. It's another Haberman and Middlekauff podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, it's available, like John always says, down in the description below on YouTube. If you're listening to it, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there. We got a bunch of videos there.
Yep. Weren't you in a band in high school?
I mean, Thomas Linz, who also once loaned me a sweet pinstriped Jordan jersey, had a band, and I was not a very solid contributor to it, but they let me hang around for a while.
What was your role?
Sing poorly sometimes.
Yeah.
Why? How do you remember that?
I just, I got a weird. I can't remember some things, and I can fucking remember vividly other things. What was the band called?
I don't remember if there was a name. Again, if it had a name, that was, I probably went to a few practices at somebody's house.
I am jealous of people that are like, when people like aspire, like, I want to get into Stanford. I want one day to become this. I mean, you were actually pretty, like, I wanted to become a broadcaster. Most people, like me, you got no clue what you're going to do. But then there are the people when you hear like David Grohl, it's like, we were jamming at 16, and we knew we'd just do whatever it took to make it. Yeah. We did it for the next 10 years. Like, you just always remember like that Steve Jobs moment. You're like, we were building the computer in the garage, and everyone thought we were fucking morons. And now look at us, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
When it organically starts, to me, like this and you and our plight of doing media stuff has been a while, but we were semi-adults once we started. It's if you start it in high school when you're still living with your parents in a garage, whatever it is, that story is untoppable. Right?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, if that band ever had a shot at anything, it wasn't going to be with me. That was clear to everybody. But again, I just talking about this as if I even was a musician. It's just, believe me, I had no place there. But I did start doing the high school football games in high school on Davis Community TV.
You were way ahead of, I would say, every single person that I knew about what you wanted to do.
With Middlekauff, the pulling guard.
Yeah, Now I would say
see, you wanted to do football. We knew that.
Something pretty consistent is, wouldn't you say a lot of young Jewish men in the media had a pretty good idea around that age, right, of what they wanted to do?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like now, like that would have been, we're talking, for people who don't know, we went to high school together, among other things, but that would have been like 01, 02, 03. I don't know. It's hard for me to know then. I feel like now for sure high school kids know I want to be a broadcaster. I don't know if I don't have the same perspective I did then.
Yeah,
but at the time, I don't remember feeling like that was a thing everybody.
It wasn't. I'm just saying a small percent. People that have actually made it, it's a small percentage now, clearly exploded. Like, I want to work. I don't even think people were saying, like, I want to work in the NFL. I wasn't saying that.
Well,
it kind of,
I would even say
like
when
8 years later.
Tell me if this is wrong, but when you went to the Eagles, what year was that? 2010? 10? I don't think, like, was everybody just trying to get, like Moneyball had come out several years earlier, but people were not just like flooding from college and from media into front offices.
I think that's like the last 3 or 4 years, really. I mean, the only reason I even thought about it is because I started working in college football, and I realized I was around these guys. I'm like, God, I'm just as smart as all these scouts. Like, I could do this pretty easily. And people were saying, like, God, you could do this. And then I kind of believed in myself, and then it just kind of organically happened. But it wasn't like, I'm going to be Billy Beane mixed with Ozzie Newsome and run the league and maybe take over Roger Goodell's job one day. Right?
You didn't go to the Eagles with, like, a project. You just went with a recommendation.
No, I just went like, Bacon, can you guys hire me? Like, I don't even know what's going on. I also think that, and we've talked about this before with, I think coaching is kind of similar. I think a lot of people used to get into coaching because they really loved coaching. I still think that's an element of it, just like broadcasting. I think there's an added element now of money and the fame. Just like I think you see a lot of people in sports that talk for a living. Do they really love sports, or are they just kind of doing it for the fame and the money? Just like are a lot of coaches, back in the day, I bet if you just went to an NFL staff in like 1993, most of the guys on the staff, probably relative to the rest of society, might have been making a little more, but it's not. None of them were millionaires, including the head coach. So is it still as quote-unquote pure, or has it become very more, the economic influence is incredible?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's a good question. Maybe I would put it like this. Like, I think there's probably a lot of people who maybe their goals were different when they started. Like, there's probably a bunch of NFL coaches right now who thought, I will just be happy being a high school coach. And I think this happens a lot, especially in like industries that there's no clear. Everyone knows how you become a doctor. You go to medical school and you pass a bunch of tests and you study really hard. Or how do I become a lawyer? Like, you can Google it and figure it out. There's nobody knows how do you become an actor. Oh, you go to Hollywood and yeah, but what do you do? But there's no blueprint. How do you become a play-by-play guy? How do you become? You get this all the time. How do you become a scout? And that answer's hard, right? If there's like a high school kid watching this, because you get that question all the time. I get questions from high school and college kids like, how do I become a broadcaster? And it's like, well, you could ask 100 different people that question, and you will get 100 different answers. There's not 100 different answers to how do you become a doctor or how do you become a pilot. There's
one,
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's
very
so.
true.
My point is, I think what's happened is like a lot more people have just become aware. Being a coach being a scout, working in a front office. That's a job I could have, right?
Yeah.
Being a broadcast. Oh, that's a job I could have. I should pursue that. And then there's ways to do that. But I would say becoming a scout is even harder to figure out how do you do that than becoming a broadcaster. I don't know, but I'll just go to ASU or I'll go to Washington
say if you
State
ranked
or I'll
it
go
on
to Syracuse.
to me, if you ranked it on the easiest one, if you talk to a lot of coaches, would be to become a coach. Like, there is a direct path, right? How to become a a because you can start at various levels. You can. What are your goals? You can go from any level to work up.
But you can't even like put your YouTube out. Like, here's me coaching. Like, how do you get the next
person
to hire?
Actually, the San Francisco Giants hired a bunch of coaches that were
That's
Twitter
actually
guys.
true. That's a good call.
But when you talk football coaching, though, you can immediately get involved in high school.
Yeah.
You can immediately go from high school to get like the lowest level in college. Like,
and
there is a hierarchy to get involved. But I think like this, coaching, broadcasting, they've always been really famous cool people. There is an element of coaching that if you're an NFL coach right now, that's like, damn. Because there's a couple things. One, you're kind of famous. Even if you're not the head coach, you're just like an assistant coach. Right away, also, I know you're making a lot of money.
Right.
Like, I don't think when we were growing up, it's like, damn, that dude's a linebacker coach for the Denver Broncos? But if your neighbor right now was like the linebacker coach for the Oakland Raiders or whatever, people that once you start telling people that like sports, they'd want to go talk to them. Like, you'd be like, oh, bring James, bring him. Just like I think that you hear a lot of people in business talk about it. Forever, most of our life, it wasn't cool to like entrepreneurs.
Right.
It was like, what's that loser doing? Get a job, a job, buddy. Now it's like everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It's like, yeah, most of you aren't going to do that. But we're at least in coaching.
I saw Gary Vee. Did you see this YouTube that Gary Vee did recently about that?
What did he say?
Well, just that how like being an entrepreneur used to be like weird. Like it was not only was it not cool, it was like not cool. And now it's like cool.
Well, probably pre-pandemic, it's probably a little harder now, and it's going to weed.
Yeah, he was talking like in the late 80s, early 90s, it was like a dirty word.
For sure.
You're kind of just like a guy, just kind of a loser.
But why has it become cool? What's the number one reason you think?
Well, I think because you see people making money doing it.
Yes, and to me, that's why coaching now is really cool. When you read some of these stories, you're like, Mike Greenberg hosts a show about sports and makes $7 million.
Everyone's like, Stephen A., clown. Stephen A. makes $10 million? Genius.
I know. And I'd say, like, for example, if you turn on Coward, and if you've watched him for a long time, you go, you know what? That'd be pretty difficult to do what he does. But I think a lot of people could go look at Stephen A. and go, well, fuck, I could hoot and holler. And you couldn't do it probably as well as him. But I think it's more like Mike Greenberg. A lot of people would say they could, but as someone that's kind of been on the other side and see how hard it is to host a show, his role, I think technically, is way more difficult than what Stephen A. is doing now, though Stephen does it to perfection.
Yeah, they're each doing something different they're doing at a high level. I've always heard that Greenberg is like one of the smooth, like in terms of just like handling everything, is one of the smoothest in the business, like one of the best there is. And it's when you watch him, it's obvious. You like him or don't like him, whatever. Same with Colin. Like Colin from the beginning has always been probably the most creative, different sports talk host, I think. But I think you're right. Stephen A is an easy one to go, oh, I could do that. And maybe you could. So give it a shot. You don't have to make $10 million. Just be a tenth of Stephen A. What are you looking at?
Someone sent me this yesterday, a while ago, and he's like, the one thing that I noticed, just like a fan that listens, is like this guy gave me a compliment, but he's just said that so many people in like media or whatever don't get it. If you give a fuck, you'll have a career. And he's a great example. I don't know who exactly he was talking about. It might have been like Coward or something, but I think this relates to a lot of people. I think what separates people, for example, in what we do, I don't think a lot of people like sports that much anymore. And sometimes I find myself, the purity of like why I got into it kind of leaves you. And I do understand the other side. I think a lot of people, luckily for us, and I think people on like that do shows and that have more creative control, like Colin or whatever, you kind of get to control a lot of it.
That's a big
where I think
deal.
a lot of guys that work like, a lot of beat writers feel kind of miserable because it can be a fucking miserable job, And if you work in a miserable job, it just wears you down, and you kind of become miserable, and you don't even realize it. And then I think often it works sometimes in like Philly and New York, but for us on this side of the country, it doesn't really play. Like being miserable all the time, it's just kind of a bad look. And I don't think that those people, when they get miserable, like they got into it for the right reason. They clearly like sports, but it can just drive you away sitting to interview people. And now athletes hate the media. Now maybe they always kind of have, but so many of them, the disdain, the disconnect, it's a weird kind of business right now.
Yeah, and that's probably a part of that too. I mean, I definitely love sports in a way that's different than I did when I was growing up, when I had a favorite team. Now I just root for cool stuff to happen. I root for if it's a game. Now it doesn't mean that I don't watch a game like, oh, I want them to win or I want them to win. You feel that way all the time, but now it's not based on like always necessarily. So sometimes it's based on who you like and people or whatever. But sometimes it's just based on I want to see something cool happen, and that still does a lot for me. Like most people watching this have a favorite team, and that's who they root for. If I'm doing a game, I always tell coaches this before I do. Like not always tell coaches this, but like guys I know who's like, man, I just hope we blow these guys out tonight. I'll be like, I hope you win. If I want you to win, cool. But like by one, like I want a really good game. That's what I root for. Is games being good. So.
I miss games, man.
I know, me too. But because I think that's one thing that gets forgotten is games are the centerpiece of the whole thing. And right now
they pay for everything.
They pay for everything, but they're also like, okay, we've gone 2 months, and you and I feel like do some pretty good content in these 2 months without games. But we've had the draft. Could you go 2 years? Just if games did just 2 years, could you go like at one point? Is it like, God? We really
there's no sports talk without games. It'd be like just no more politicians. Like what would the news networks talk about? Right there is a fundamental base of what we do is based on you draft guys and sign guys for the fucking games.
Yeah.
You fire the coach to get the new head coach to coach you for the games and the playoffs and the Super Bowl and the NBA playoffs. And you build up to play in the golf majors and the Kentucky Derby and like this shit that our calendar is built around. Now there is like the NBA lottery and some of that fun stuff, but really the things that you bring up first is when is March Madness? When is the Masters? When's Week 1? When's the NBA Finals? Like you don't do it like when's the OTAs start? Like no one even talks about that shit. No one cares. I mean they do care, but it's interwoven in caring most about leading to the game.
The draft
which is
matters.
Kind of like the schedule happening. I mean, it's really cool. But why is the schedule a big deal? Because there's 16 fucking games for every team.
That's right. It's very aspirational, right? The draft matters because it's like, oh, we're gonna get to see these guys play a game. Yeah, I said this to you today.
To me, the draft is like in a movie when you see a dude with a machine gun in like Schwarzenegger, but he also has the little cannon under it that he can shoot like a grenade. Mm-hmm. it's like the added element. But the bullets are really we're going to take the most guys out.
Right.
But every once in a while you can shoot one of those, and it shoots and it blows some people up. But really you got to take people out with a machine gun.
By the way, I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith 2 days ago. It was on HBO.
Yeah, is that where the movie starts with them like shooting at each other and then having sex?
I don't know. I didn't see the beginning.
Is that Brad Pitt and Angelina?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to like kill each other and then they fuck, but they're married.
I don't remember. I didn't see the beginning, but I just know the end shootout scene has to be one of the most unrealistic. I mean, every movie shootout scene is crazy, but this movie shootout scene has to be one of the most.
But is that them in the house?
Ever. No, that's when they're trying to shoot each other. They team up at the end, and they're just doing a bunch of this stuff where you got your back to back, and you're like spinning, and they're facing each other and shooting the person behind the other person, and then doing more of these where you're spinning with your arms out.
What do you think the ratio of the movie scenes where you're getting attacked by 10 plus, so it wouldn't be legal?
John Wick, basically.
Yeah, John Wick, and you never, ever get hit, to just a reality situation, whether it's a gang fight or whatever, and just bullets are flying. The percentage of time someone just gets a bullet to the leg or a finger or hits you in the back.
It's like 15 on 1 in this, 20 on 1.
Because if you got an automatic weapon and I'm just aiming at the dude.
You're spraying.
Yeah, well, even if I'm hitting like the concrete and bouncing up, I'm going to hit you.
And you're standing down there in the middle. Just.
I'll give you the thing that never makes sense. When you're in like a Toyota Camry and the dude pulls up next to you, blasts, and you just duck, and then he takes off and you're unfazed. You're like, okay, yeah. You didn't catch one to the ass.
You mean from the side or when they're shooting from the back?
From the side. Yeah, from the side. Or the back.
When they're always like they're driving like this.
Yeah, so it's just going through the headrest. It's just not realistic.
All right.
Though every time you watch, you're like, this dude's gonna get nailed, and he's never gets hit.
No. Cool guys don't look at explosions, right? That's the great.
Very, very true.
Before we move on, should we tell to the sports? Should we tell people about what you're eating these days?
Yeah, we got a couple friends, couple local. We got to keep supporting
that
as we battle through to phase. Are we in phase 2 yet? I know we're in phase 1. Not
how many
quite sure.
Which phase we're in is irrelevant to me unless I know how many phases. There are 4 phases?
Yeah, I think so. We got a couple more. Okay. Our friends at Kinder's been around since 1946. Great food. I might go get a sandwich after we finish recording. They're all around. Started in San Pablo. There's a couple in Walnut Creek area. And then our friends at Evergood Sausage. You can find them in Costco. You can find them in Albertsons. You can find them in Nugget Market.
Safeway.
All over Northern California. All over California.
I found them in Denver and Seattle and Portland.
Yeah, go get them.
All right, John, on to the schedule. We did a bunch of videos right after, all on the YouTube page, about the Niners and the Raiders schedules. I think, I'm trying to remember, like, back a few years, when did the NFL schedule release become a thing that I was aware mattered? Like, I remember a few years ago, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but all of a sudden something changed where I had to pay attention to the schedule release the night of. I couldn't just be something that I read in the morning. That feels like it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know about what's your time. How do you think about the schedule as it is today?
Yeah, well, I got a big picture theory that Brady and Manning were the bird and magic of the NFL.
Yep,
it took them to another level. Now, the NFL, our entire life, was always big, right? It just, the media landscape changed, gambling changed, fantasy football became. Yeah. I think fantasy football
Fox deal came in the mid-early 90s when we were.
Yeah, it all just started snowballing, taking it to another level. The NFL's great for television. It's the perfect sport for society, where we had a million options. It's like, I don't really need to watch the baseball game, or I just got it on in the background. Like, what score? Where you watch a football game.
Yeah.
Now,
also,
you watch a basketball game if it's a playoff game or something, but it's like, oh, what's Steph going for 20? Okay, I'll sit down and watch. You don't have to be locked in. In
By
football,
the way,
you're gambling and playing fantasy.
That? Sorry, you just made me think of something. The other part is, like, it's carnal, but it's not like boxing where you just see all the blood all the time. Like, every hit is a bloody nose, right? They're covered up, and it's really aggressive. It's got that carnal element that people love.
Well, there's a build up to it, right? Because there's a week long. Some famous television exec said it once upon a time. It might have been Dick Ebersol.
I think you're
football was made for television.
Yeah.
I think football was made for modern day society. The setup of it, the way media consumes it, the way consumers consume it, the way it can involve a gambler, it can involve someone that doesn't care that much, but it's like, damn, I'm gonna draft Joe Burrow, I'm gonna draft Joe Mixon, I'm gonna draft DK Metcalf, and you're just kind of keeping track with everything. It's so national. Do you like my theory about the Brady Manning, the Bird role that those two guys, Magic role those guys played? Now, they were already really famous players before them, but it just how mainstream those guys became commercial, and they were both just born for it, right?
And we could do a 2-hour podcast just on that, right? Of like, but it had to be Brady with Belichick, and Manning is the Manning boy.
Guy, if quarantine keeps going, that's not a bad idea for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, but yeah, honestly, I do buy those two guys had a big. There's a million things. The Madden video game, fantasy football, gambling. I think having those two, that's all a big part of it.
And then what to me, like immediately when the schedule comes out, you get betting lines, you get lines for quarterbacks about how their schedule adds up. And then there's a large percentage of just football fans, right? Who is my team playing? You know who they were playing. But I think when you kind of find out your opponents, tell me if you agree with this. I don't think people pay attention that much. They go, oh, we're playing, the AFC East, NFC East. They don't really think about it again until, okay, we're playing the Eagles on Sunday night if I'm a Raider fan, or fuck, because you knew you were playing Tampa Bay before Brady went there, but you're not really thinking about it. Now, you're like, when are we playing Brady? Sunday Night Football if you're the Raiders? Like, it's now, if there were water coolers, as if we were going to work right now, well, you and I don't, I definitely don't. You have somewhat of a job you go to every once in a while. You would meet people at the water cooler and go, God, how cool is it going to be Brady coming to Vegas? Like, that would be a conversation.
Yeah, but nobody goes, we got the AFC East this year.
Yeah. We're like, do you see our third place schedule? God, we're getting the Bears.
Who we got in the rotation? And now I feel like we're doing a Scooter Magruder video.
But that's to me where the element of it. And I think the NFL, they've put all their chips in the table. I also think that you could build content around. One thing I think media people have learned and the NFL has learned, I think it works for all sports, but the NFL does a great job of this. Every program they build incorporates everything. Like if you do an NFL Live in December, you're having a conversation with breaking news, who's going to get fired, who's going to get cut. Well, big picture, who can they draft? How are they going to replace this guy that's going to be a free agent? And they got all these little tentacles off just the football that week conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that the NFL, as the year goes on, because we're already talking like is looking at a team, is Dave Gettleman on? I mean, he's a bad example, but he's the first guy. Adam Gase. Is Adam Gase already on the hot seat? And then it's like, who would replace him? Would they go after Lincoln Riley, get him with Sam Darnold? Would Lincoln Riley? Well, look at him. He's had all these top recruiting classes. He's got, Kyler Murray Jr. coming back. There's just all these tentacles.
Can I give you an example? I think this is what you're talking about. Kirk Cousins is a above average quarterback who played for a bad franchise, who now plays for, a better franchise, but not like a flagship NFL fan base. I mean, the Vikings are big, but they're not the Cowboys, right? And yet he is they're like
a upper middle class.
They got a good fan base. It's just like they are not like the top 5 national. They're not the Cowboys or the Packers or the 49ers.
If they're good, primetime, bad, irrelevant.
And yet, so he has never done anything particularly remarkably extraordinary. Hasn't played for one of the bigger franchises in the NFL. And yet he's a massive story all the time.
Listen to this. We recorded some scheduled videos. We threw them on YouTube. And then I was trying to figure out like what I was going to talk about on 3 and Out podcast. And I flip on, I realize, oh yeah, ESPN is a 3-hour show. And it was like 7 o'clock at night. So I flip it over. Trey Wingo's like, oh, they were interviewing Jerry. And you see the picture of McCarthy? He's got like the Beats by Dre headphones on.
No.
Mike, I mean, you're mixing a salad or something. I feel like you look really unhealthy.
After a year off?
God, he looks terrible. But so him and Jerry, and they go, well, what's the latest with Dak? Or maybe they played the Jerry sound about Dak, and Jerry just says what he normally says, how much they love Dak. They're doing everything to support Dak. Then they go to Schefter. Like, what is the latest with his contract situation? Schefter had this curveball kind of out of nowhere. The thing Dak, he's like, what Dak really wants to do is get close to a fully guaranteed deal, but make it short, 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And the Cowboys are pushing, we'll pay you, but we're going to get 5 or 6 years and basically lock you up. And then Schefter drops this nugget, which triggers me, that goes, Dak has been in contact with Kirk Cousins.
Oh.
And Kirk Cousins has been telling him, use the franchise tag as your friend. And it's like, Kirk Cousins? And again, he's not totally wrong, because then I added up his number, and it was close to $190 million he's owed. So if you actually wanted financial advice, he's not a crazy guy to get
As long as you don't
from.
get hurt, easy for him to say now, right? To you.
True. Yeah, but it's just like, should Kirk Cousins, if he had said, like, he reached out to Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, I'd be like, oh, getting the different, take the most or do a Brady. I was like, you're getting fucking giving advice to Dak. Kirk Cousins giving advice to Dak?
Because here's my
question. If I was
question.
Jerry, I'd be furious.
What would have been if Cousins had gotten the contract he wanted? What would he have
remember the Redskins offered him a contract that would have been much less money, and he was already franchised the first year if they had franchised him again the second year.
Right.
And they basically knew twofold. They're either going to franchise us again, so we're going to double the amount of guaranteed dollars, or they're going to let us hit free agency where we're going to cash in. So either way,
but what I'm saying is, what would have been the deal that Cousins wanted from Washington? What would he have signed?
probably like $60-70 million,
Right.
and they were offering like 35.
And what's Dak want?
Well, like 112 or something.
Yeah, like Dak's upside is much bigger than Kirk's upside to signing.
But I think what he's telling Dak is don't sign an under market deal. Just use the franchise tag twice. They'll either let you go or be forced to kind of overpay. It's not wrong. It just triggered me when you hear his name.
But
I can't believe he's dictating. But sometimes the guy out ahead on an issue in society, sometimes they're polarizing individual and may not be the best at what they do, even though they're right.
Yes,
if you were Jerry Jones, would that irk you a little bit? You're like, Kirk Cousins,
shut up, Kirk. But it's shut up, Kirk, because you know that you're paying him below market value if you get the contracts you want, based like what he would get as a free agent, right? You are in perpetual. You have the upper hand because you chose the player in the draft.
Well, I guess one element Schefter said he's really adamant on is the shorter term deal, which is Cousins' idea.
This is very interesting, John, because this is something that I think has hurt the NBA. Not to get into this whole thing, but you and I have talked about what has hurt the NBA. You like my clicker here? It's actually just for my oscillating fan, but I hold it like it's a NFL clicker. Is player movement. I think we've talked about it. Major issue for the NBA. We don't need to get down that rabbit hole. But like, for example, Steve Ballmer just wanted an NBA team. There's not that many NBA teams. So Steve said, what's the team worth? Not $2 billion, but I got $2 billion. I'm going to blow everybody out of the water. Here's $2.1 billion or 2.2, whatever he paid for the team. There's a certain level of rich where you're Kevin Durant and you go, I'm going to take $3 million less this year because the freedom I get for that on the back end is worth it. The more money individuals start making, the more they can start doing stuff like this, right? Are we going to see more of this in the NFL? And is the NFL going to have to adjust fast?
Well, I thought about this listening to the Strauss book when he brought up the purchase of the Warriors, and Joe Lacob was going up against Larry Ellison, who's worth $70 billion. And I just thought about this hearing you. Did Larry Ellison want the team that bad? Because Steve Ballmer looked at it like he's buying a home. I don't give a shit how much it costs. I want to live there. I want the home. I'll pay what it takes. Right. And money's not an issue for me. Larry Ellison could have dwarfed them. So did he want the team? Yeah, but he still looked at it like from an acquisition. If Steve Ballmer did not look at like, well, I'll be able to drive revenue this way. Now, he does once he gets it, but it was like, I want the fucking basketball team. And that Joe Lacob was like, I want the basketball team. Now, I don't have unlimited resources. If Joe Lacob had been Larry Ellison, is there 1,000,000% chance that Larry Ellison would have owned that team? Because he would have been like, I'll pay $750 million, even if it doesn't pencil.
You're saying if Joe Lacob had Larry Ellison's money?
Yeah.
Well, then Joe Lacob would have got the team.
Because would you probably agree that he would have been willing to spend like $800
He just wouldn't have had to do. He wouldn't have had to make it. You go behind the scenes. He just would have been like, I'm going to put an offer.
What's your number that you'll sign right now? Is it
what
$750
would he
million?
have paid for the? Yeah. What would he have paid for the team? What did he end up paying? $530.
Well, I think he paid $450, and at the time it was kind of crazy.
That's
and
right.
he also had
maybe
to pay
the Bucks
some other
were
costs.
$530 soon after.
Yeah,
he might have paid $750.
If he had unlimited money, he wouldn't have flinched like $650 because he would have been a big picture thinking, going, well, we can turn this into something.
But you're saying he wasn't thinking that. He's just thinking, I want this.
It wasn't, and even Joe then, it wasn't even about the money. He was scrapping every fucking penny he had because all he wanted to care about the team. Where I think sometimes with like Kirk Cousins, Now, here's where you could balance. He was thinking money was a driving force, but I'll defend him. He turned down the Jets to go to the Vikings, right? And that was he did pick the best football move.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So he balanced them both. He took
but
a
a
little
decision
less,
he
remember?
could make because he had already gotten rich.
And this is where I get back to Dak, like, where are his kind of options? Now, this is not a Dak Prescott, but this is what I'm saying. Like, where the NFL just thrives is like all of their conversations, where the NBA conversation, for example, it just becomes, where's Kevin going to go all year? And there's not much else to it. Where the NFL's, it's just like this base of the football, and then everything, like the not to bring up COVID, but the picture of when you go really tight on COVID, it's got all the little things. It looks like a mushroom, a bunch of little mushrooms. And it's just got all these little tentacles coming out of like, where's Dak going to play? And then if Dak leaves, like, do they get a new quarterback? Do they draft a guy? Who's in the draft? And it just snowballs where you're just kind of part of this huge game.
Well,
and they're all, unlike the NBA that feels kind of hollow. It's like, oh my God. The NFL, it feels like, okay, is Trevor Lawrence, is he actually good? Let's watch him. Like, is he worth the number 1 overall pick? I saw Matt Miller the other day tweeted that Justin Fields, when you really watch him, tad bit overrated. I didn't watch that much of him. But he did feel like a guy that, he couldn't throw at Georgia, then all of a sudden he's just some star at Ohio State. You'd be shocked. I bet some people in the NFL are just like, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Prediction, the second pick of the NFL draft in 2021 will be Penei Sewell, offensive tackle from Oregon.
I'd push back there that I couldn't put that in stone, given that what if there is a Chase Young type out there? I don't know who that would be. But that guy, sometimes like a Khalil Mack.
This is the guy.
See,
I'm not putting it in stone. I'm just saying this is my prediction.
Honestly, he feels not overhyped because everyone, Schwartz, I mean, a lot of people in the NFL
I've seen it, John. I've seen him in person. You don't even realize he's an offensive lineman when he's running around. But then you find out he's massive. I mean, then you see he's a freak.
So you think this
generational tackle.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, I'm not putting it in stone. That's just my prediction. I think it's going to be.
My point is the hype on this guy.
I know.
Feels really high.
I know.
And
especially
this guy got injured.
There aren't a lot of people out there like me and Jeff Schwartz that just love watching offensive lineman film. Duke
and
Mayweather.
Sometimes I think with the national kind of the vibes, the Big Ten and the SEC guys sometimes take off stronger in the hype train, right? And Clemson, where if Penei Sewell was at Alabama, I think you would see his name a lot more with like DJs of the world.
Yeah,
he just I don't
haven't
see
watched
his name
him yet because he's had 2 years of hype, but he's not. No one's this from a scouting perspective. The people who really are scouting are worried about this draft, not the next.
My first reaction, and I'm a hype mongerer sometimes. I also see the flip side of I think sometimes hype, and I'm not trying to pick on this guy because then his brother was a 5-star. Clearly, this guy's it's headed to the NFL really high. I think it just it can just snowball. But there was, wouldn't you say, last year after Bosa goes, every single person was like Chase Young, and it was like Chase Young too.
Yeah, I think he's a Chase Young level.
I guess my pushback was just if there is a sweet pass rusher, sometimes those guys go above a tackle.
Right.
Now you could argue like it wouldn't be. Someone might if this guy's viewed as like the next Tony Baselli. Right? Or Trent Williams, someone will trade up for a tackle.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. That's just a prediction. I'm not setting it in stone, and I think you bring.
Would the Haberman, Duke Manyweather, Jeff Schwartz evaluator say that Penei Sewell would have been the number 1 tackle in this draft where 4 guys went in the top 10?
Yes.
It feels like that was
the
vibe,
I
right?
think there will be big boards that he's above Trevor Lawrence on, but he's just not going to get drafted ahead of the
Who was the guy from Washington that was viewed like Penei Sewell 3 or 4 years ago and then hurt his back?
Trey Adams? Or is that the guy that was just an undrafted free agent?
Yeah, but like fucked up his back and tore his ACL.
Tore his ACL, had multiple injuries.
But wasn't going into like his junior year, this guy was viewed as like a top 5
No,
prospect.
Not Trey Adams. Trey Adams is the guy that just came out.
Isn't there a guy with a last name M, like McGray?
Oh, well, there's Caleb McGarry, but that's not.
That's not who I'm thinking of.
No, that's not who you're thinking of. Who is the guy you were thinking of? Why can't I think of?
Remember, there was a guy at Washington.
Yeah, I do.
You know
totally. Left tackle. Yeah. He tears his ACL like in October.
Where are the Sewells from? L.A.
I think Utah.
Oh, Salt Lake City. Okay, good lineage there. Oregon's got a good history there. Isn't almost said Hideki Matsui, but I was watching the Yankee game. It's Haloti Ngata.
Haloti Ngata. Yeah, he was born in American Samoa and then went to then moved to Utah at some point.
Haloti Ngata, Tony Finau, Penei Sewell.
Penei Sewell. Yeah, Tony Finau, Utah.
I think they're all
Basketball
cousins.
player.
I'm not kidding. I mean, I think
No,
they're
I think
all
you're right.
legitimately
The Loteleles.
Yeah.
All right, John. The couple schedule things we wanted to get into. Not the same stuff we
That
talked
was a
about.
miss on Middlekauff scouting. That was pure pressure. I didn't really love Starr as much as some, and I was kind of new to it, and everyone was pressuring me. It's like, I don't see it, and, let's call space. He's a good player, but
You were
didn't get it,
inexperienced, probably.
yeah, just kind of blah.
No.
He's going to have a 7-8 year career, but he
Right,
went
but not
top
the-
15.
Yeah,
Starr Lotulelei. Anytime your name's Starr, it's pretty sweet.
it is a good name. Okay, couple of schedule things we didn't talk about in the YouTubes. One from the Niners' perspective. And this is nice, like, that it's easy to look at their schedule, and the primetime games are part of it, but I would say the games that we have identified the last few years for the Niners as our favorite games, neither one of them's on primetime. The 2 Seahawks games, right?
I do think they put that 1-3 as like their fingers are crossed.
The Week 17 game?
Yeah,
that
because
could
I saw Kawakami tweet, and he's right. NBC, which is the most important property right now for the NFL, right? Their highest rating is Sunday Night Football. The Niners have 3 Sunday Night Football games. The NFL
Philly, the
realized
Rams, and the Cowboys.
that they're their West Coast cash cow, and I think this Week 17 is always open for whatever game matters. I think the NFL would always sign up unless, what would you say, maybe like Cowboys Eagles? That would probably be their first choice, if that's even the game.
Yeah, I mean,
Like would they rather have Dallas Week 17 in a must-win get-in than San Francisco Seattle?
But so Dallas plays the Giants Week 17.
So that game probably won't mean anything.
They play Philly Week 16.
Who would be a team? Yeah, I mean they would have to be up there. Maybe who does Brady play Week 17? Because you could tell
Atlanta.
me. But what if it's Brady? What if it's Atlanta, Tom Brady for the winner gets into the playoffs? I think that would be a big game for
Tennessee at Houston. That's not
to
more
me,
attractive than Niners Seahawks.
No.
Yeah, you're right. This really is kind of the game.
Broncos Raiders. I mean, I could see even if it's they just put whatever game has both teams have implications to get in the playoffs, and sometimes it's rare, right? Sometimes it's
that's how you end up with Texans.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the right move because you can't have, you're playing the Giants and they're fucking tanking, and they've won 3 games. No one cares. It's always the situation sometimes Monday Night Football finds themselves in, which is not fair. Sometimes that you, see a game, Week 10, you're like, oh, Steelers, Bears. And it looks pretty good on paper right now. And then you get there and you're like, the Bears are 3-7.
That's why when I told you you'd love the Week 2 Thursday night game.
Yeah, because I think you can utilize
Bengals Browns.
If I knew Tua was playing, let's say, I would use Burrow and Tua on Monday Night Football in the first couple weeks, and just who cares if they're 0-1 or 1-1? Who cares? I was like, damn, I'm gonna watch Tua. Now it's harder to do when Joe Burrow has 15 picks and 6 touchdowns Week 8, and you're like, I don't fucking want to watch Joe Burrow right now.
They did do Tua a favor by having New England Week 1 for them when he's probably going to miss one of those games.
Do you think he's going to play this year?
I think
he's one of the great unknowns.
Yeah. By the end of the year, I think he might play.
Is Josh Rosen still on their team?
I think he is, but not for long, as they say.
What if I told you? Is there going to be 30 for 30 on Josh Rosen? He went from being my favorite prospect, or one of them. I like Sam Darnold more, but feels like his career guy is almost over. I mean, but this back to the Niners thing.
If you guys only had any idea how hard we've had a time staying on topic today.
Yeah, how just cyclical sports are.
Yes.
Around Chip Kelly, and even that first year of Kyle, I was just like, I don't know. This feels like this rivalry's kind of been lost. The great part about, the Ravens get created, right, in the late 90s. They kind of get immediately good. Belichick's fired or whatever, and his last draft was Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, and the next couple years, Ozzie, they're just good, and then the Steelers are good, and they just have this built-in rivalry. It just happens. But it maintained, for a decade, where it was like, fucking Ravens, Steelers, let's go. It feels like a heavyweight fight. Where the Niners, it felt like they started like that, where it's like, this is incredible. And then just ended. because the Niners. But the Seattle kept rolling.
I would say the whole NFC West has felt like that at different points in time, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking about this specific rivalry, which I would argue is their best rivalry. Like when you just ask someone, if I went to Texas and go, what's your favorite West Coast game to watch in the NFL? They'd be like, oh, Niners Seattle. That's a fun fucking game, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of resonated. They had some star power. Niners the bigger brand than the Rams and the Cardinals. Because I would agree, when Carson and Arians, they did feel pretty big. Like you could throw the Cardinals on Sunday night. I was like, this. And they were beating teams. But this game that back to mattering. Part of developing a rivalry, right, is just history and being at it for a while. And that's what the rivalry went from. There was no. Did you think there was a Seattle Niner rivalry before Harbaugh beat? I mean, no one did. But it went 0-60, literally like one game. You're like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Have you watched any Yankees Red Sox from like just the games have been on ESPN, just randomly over the last like couple weeks?
No, I watched a little of the Aaron Boone game a few weeks ago, but that was it.
Yeah, I flipped the other day. It was like the 0-4 game 4 where they're down 0-3, and you just feel but the history. Like you watch a big Duke North Carolina game with Vince Carter or something. You're like, God, this means.
That's
so
why
much.
I never complain when I'm like Sunday Night Baseball, Yankees Red Sox again. It's like, yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I love it.
I mean, what else do you want? Cubs Cardinals, and we got about 4 options here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one thing you have to hope is that the Niners stay good, which I think they're going to be good. Should win somewhere between 10 and 12 games. I think you could say it wouldn't shock me if Seattle's the 1 seed. It wouldn't shock me if Seattle's the 5 seed. But I think they're a playoff team. That anytime I get 2 playoff teams and they're already kind of have some animosity, is just competitive hatred. I'm very excited for these games.
Yeah, and it helps. The Sherman element helps. Both teams have stars. It's just an easy one. It's just an easy one for everybody to follow. We talk so much about this, so I'm not going to go back down the road of like the NFL's advantages, but their storylines are just easy, and this one is as easy as it gets because you've seen them all play big games. But I'm just
that's going to be a cool element. Like I think over the next decade, those 2 teams. Remember, Al Davis used to do it in Denver and Kansas City. They all used to kind of rotate players. That helps because you're like, I love that motherfucker. Now I flip. And think about the Yankees and Red Sox. When that rivalry got put on steroids, it was like guys jumping, guys signing with the Yankees. It's like Johnny Damon was our guy, and now he's there. It just that adds a huge element. And Richard Sherman, beside Russ, and Marshawn was one of their most famous players in the history of the franchise. And the Niners and then he's good.
Yeah, but the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry is built on that, right? Is the Babe Ruth
that's where
sale.
I'm saying. I think the Niners
like it's the original.
Add to it. Yeah,
be like if the Niners had traded, like they traded out of the 12 spot in the first round so the Seahawks could draft Russell Wilson.
Or a guy would be like this. It'd be like when Legion of Boone had turned on Russell Wilson, and let's say Kyle showed up and somehow he landed Russell Wilson, and then they went on to win some Super Bowls, and they never won a Super Bowl again. It was Babe Ruth. Wouldn't you say Russell Wilson's the Babe Ruth of Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I wonder if the NFL is to have a story like that, it almost has to be more coach. Like
probably does.
Like the Giants or the Browns, like the Giants losing Belichick.
Well, what if this somehow Pete Carroll retires in the next couple years?
The Jets, I guess.
And there's like some inner friction with Kyle. He's like, "Let me out of my contract." They let him out of his contract, and then like John Schneider makes a play.
Right.
How would the Niners, like fans of the 49ers, let's just use that scenario. At least players you can understand, they're free agents, they get cut. When Pat Riley left the Knicks for the Heat, in a situation like that, or Phil Jackson, you're like, is this guy just, what the fuck? You would hate that guy. Now, I don't think that's a scenario, but that's what we need to really up the juice.
Yep. Yeah, I just part of what makes their schedule great is that the division used to be there. There have been stretches of years, where the divisional games were death, just the worst. Like the Cardinals-Niners was the Cardinals. I mean, the Niners Seahawks were just fucking guaranteed naps, just 3-hour naps where you pretend you watch the game, and there's none of that. There's none of that now. And then you add to that when you were good. Guess what? Your schedule's good. I would say if I said to you, John, pick out the games that you go, you could reasonably see you get to the game and you're just like, well, okay. I mean, I'd say
Miami.
1, 2, Washington, Miami. Hell, I'll tell you this, week 2, what if the Jets beat the Bills week 1?
I'm going to play probably not a year-long fantasy, but I'm going to play a lot of daily fantasy, and I think I'm going to take Kyler Murray a lot. Like I could see,
the
oh,
Cardinals
damn,
are
he had 2
definitely not on
touchdowns
that
throwing,
list.
2 touchdowns running.
I think there's like 2 games. There's the potential for 4 games that you like, but 2 of those games are week 2 and 3, and that's too early to be going, So,
well, I think you people could be able to text me on like a Sunday morning, like, oh, what are you watching? You watching Red Zone? No, I'm watching Cardinals Browns.
Yeah.
I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I think that game is cool. The Patriots are cool. You could the Jets, Giants, but I love watching Sam Darnold. You could say the Giants got snooze fest potential.
that's what I'm saying. So Giants, Jets, Washington, and Miami. But again, the Giants that's week 3. So
You're into the season.
now that one is like if they're 0-2, who do they play early? And it's like you're watching the Niners play in the same stadium. They play Pittsburgh and at Chicago. They could be 0-2.
God. You see the opening Monday night? It's kind of a weird doubleheader. It's like Pittsburgh at what would you say? The Giants play Pittsburgh. That's the first game. Giants Pittsburgh. The second game is Broncos at Tennessee. Has a game ever been that far east? The second night game? Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's weird. You're right.
Shouldn't it be Tennessee at Denver?
It is
Shouldn't
Tennessee at Denver.
Oh, it is.
What I'm looking at says Tennessee at Denver.
Okay. The thing I read must have been wrong.
Oh,
it's at
but
Denver. Okay,
yeah.
I thought.
But I'll tell you this. Even that is like that's our second Monday night game.
Yeah, but I think their argument is like I could throw you Jacksonville playing Jacksonville.
That's always
and
the
you
argument,
watch.
right?
Yeah, and they're right.
Speaking of the Sunday Monday night game, no, I'm kidding. The Raiders' secondary market, John, is off the charts. Darren Ravel tweeted on Thursday night, spoke to some big brokers tonight. Secondary sales of NFL tickets are roughly 15% ahead of what they normally are when the schedule is released. The Vegas Raiders are the stars. 6 of their 8 games have get-in prices of at least $400. Now, somebody did, just a Raider fan DM me who said, because when you talk Haberman and Middlekauff, you talk open DMs. This is Garrett. So he's like, hey, the tickets are off the charts. And I'm like, yeah, might not be great for the home field advantage. He said, well, actually, what I saw was that most of the ticket sales are from Vegas and Southern California, so maybe it will be good home fields. Anyway. More than, John, this is Calvin Watkins. According to TickPick, 5 most demanded tickets by measure of average purchase. Raiders, $547, number 1. Cowboys, number 2, $320.
Well, what do you think about this?
$220 difference.
I saw, is it Fred Rogan, the famous news guy, sports guy down in L.A.?
Yeah.
He tweeted, he's like, kind of weird, the Rams only got 1 home primetime game in L.A. I think is it week 2, Sunday Night Football?
Well, they're Sunday night week 1 against Dallas.
Okay, that's it. So that was their only primetime home game. I think they got a couple other primetime games, but that's their home game.
I think they've got Monday night against the Bears. That'd be 2.
I think that game's in Chicago. I think that game's in Chicago.
All right, let me check their schedule.
Where the Raiders got 4. Let me repeat, 4 primetime games. Now, 1 probably could be flexed if they're shitty, which would be week 11 versus the Chiefs. But Monday night, week 2 is happening.
Yeah, so Sunday night, Monday night, Fred Rogan.
He's wrong.
Because this says Sunday night's the Cowboys at home. The Bears are at home on Monday Night Football. And then the Patriots are at home for Thursday Night Football.
So they get 3?
Still less than the Raiders, but yeah, 3.
Okay, that's my.
Do you count Thursday?
Yeah, I count Thursday. So disregard that. So the Rams got taken care of. The Raiders got taken care of too, though, right? I mean, they gave them 4. This is a team, unlike the Rams, who have the last 3 years won. So at least you go, well, the Rams should be pretty good. There is 0, and let me repeat, 0 indication that the Raiders are going to be good this year. There's just none. The history would show us they've been consistently terrible. They are risking. Now, the early season one, it's an easy risk. Monday night, opening Vegas, be really cool. But I think by the time you get to Tampa, when we've talked about their schedule, they could easily be 1-4. So you go into Tampa after the bye 1-4. Now it's Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, but still, like they're taking and they did this a couple years ago. Remember, after the Raiders made the playoffs, they gave them the max amount of slots, as they deserved. Like Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, DC, AC, or ACDC. Khalil Mack, Del Rio's kind of cool. It's like the Raiders were cool again. And then it was all of a sudden like, oh my God. And they got flexed out of them all fast. So do you agree that the league is, you kind of got to do it because the stadiums are cool, but it could be bad football. And to me, but there's a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah,
guy.
The key is just for it to be average football. Just don't let it be bad football, right? These are all home games. So if you're playing Tampa week 7 and you're 1-4, are there a bunch of Raider fans there or a bunch of who's there? It'd be one thing if you were in Tampa and the place is sold out.
Doesn't that matter less, though, who's there and how you look?
Yeah, I'm just saying, let's say the week 11 game, that could be flexed, right? Sunday Night Football against Kansas City at home.
Yeah.
Let's say that game was at Kansas City. I would know that even if that game was not flexible and the Raiders were a 3-win team, it's going to look Kansas City. It's going to be sold out. It's going to be a great environment on TV.
Oh yeah.
All 4 of these games are home games, which means either if they're not playing well, it's not a great crowd, or it's not their crowd. Which, to your point, if it's all Chiefs fans week 11 in Vegas, that's fine from a TV standpoint. That's not a big problem for the NFL. But it is for the Raiders, for the team, not for the franchise, if that makes sense.
Let's just not even include the Chargers. Let's include the Rams. Couldn't you put the Rams and the Raiders in kind of the same realm? Like, there is a huge unknown how it's going to sound, how it's going to look. Not that the stadium won't look good, but like, definitely with the Rams, is the place sold out? You know, is it just people just kind of sitting there?
You cut yourself off. You're saying for the Rams, that's a risk. Is the place sold out? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like, because the Chargers, I would say no, right?
But sure. But the Raiders, we feel pretty good. I mean, the Raiders are sold out.
Well, there are going to be people there. Yeah. It's just going to be fascinating. The atmosphere, is it super loud? What's it look like? I mean, the stadium's going to look good, but the vibe.
It's a great point.
Does that even matter? But you'd say, well, when I watch a game with Minnesota or New England or fucking Pittsburgh or Kansas City, the place rocks on Monday night, right?
What does Sunday night and Monday night look like compared to Sunday afternoon in Vegas?
Another good point.
But I think, again, sold out. You got vacation days. Take Monday off. Yeah, but they're going to get their chance. Like, here's the thing.
You couldn't ask for a better opportunity, right?
Exactly what I was going to say. Like, the upside, if you're a Raider fan, you're listening to this, you're like, why are you guys talking about the negative? The upside is, if you're just kind of good, you don't have to be great. If you're just solid, like solid enough that the Raiders are 3-2 coming into this game against Tampa. Like, okay, right? The Raiders are, what would it be? 5-4 coming into this game against Kansas City. Like, okay, that might be good enough.
Here's what they have that LA doesn't have. When I say, hey, they're playing an NFL game in Las Vegas, the first even couple years, I think you could be sitting there with your wife, your girlfriend, your buddy, even if you're not a big Raider guy, you're just be like, oh, let's take a look, right? There is an intrigue there. And that's where I think the element of, if they are just like, damn, they're kind of good, it's cool to be like, Monday Night Football's in Las Vegas, Sunday Night Football's in Las Vegas. They want Vegas to be good.
Well, I remember, I think I told you this, I remember being in Vegas just for like a weekend, the first year of the hockey team,
Golden Knights.
Yeah, and it was either right before the Stanley Cup Finals, you know, when they were battling for the Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
Or
isn't that the award you get at the MVP?
Oh, what's the name of the trophy? The Stanley Cup.
The Stanley
That's
Cup,
the one you win.
Conn Smythe's who they give the guy that gets it.
There goes my street cred.
Can you name their coach?
The Knights coach?
Yes. I can.
You can?
Well, just because I saw it the other day, The Athletic wrote a story. It's the guy
from the Sharks
fired. Peter DeBoer.
Peter DeBoer, of course. So I gotta admit, Vegas was like, they were all in. Like, you turn on the radio,
they
it's
won.
all nice.
They won right away.
Billboard. That's what I'm saying. So, but they were really good. But I would think if you're just good enough, what the bar in the NFL is like, you just got to be around the conversation when December rolls around. Even mid-November, you just be around like the 7th playoff spot. That's enough.
Listen, you grew up right around Sacramento, and I think there are some comp Sacramento, Vegas in the sense of you give a town that doesn't have a pro sports team, you take so much pride in that team. So when Vegas gets the hockey team, even though hockey on the sports hierarchy is the bottom, where the NFL just in general, you gave any town an NFL team, you get a fucking erection, right? You got a fucking NFL team in town. We get NFL football in town. Then there gets to an element, this is not their first team, right? Like if you gave Sacramento a bad baseball team to go along, the Kings, let's say the Kings were good, or Oklahoma City, or they're just used to winning. If that team sucks, it would lose its luster really fast. And the thing with Vegas, unlike a lot of towns, is they're a star-driven town, they're a bright lights town, they're a badass town. They're used to sweet shit. So this first year, you're going to get somewhat of a pass, but you have to win.
Yeah, I do.
And I don't think you get a pass in the sense of last year they had moments where they look good, moments where they look bad. Like you can't be losing the Jaguars. If you're going to end up going under 500.
Yeah, I do think there's this other element that's hard to quantify, especially because we don't live there. But like one thing I think really works for the Kings in Sacramento is that Sacramento has a chip on their shoulder. So even when the Kings are bad, it's like this is our team and we need them to be good. I think.
I don't know. Vegas is probably closer to like Scottsdale or something that way. Right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, one thing as this whole thing was unfolding, were they going to go? Will they not? I do think when it came to the hockey team, one of the things that was a factor with the support they got was that people were just always telling Vegas, you're not a pro sports market. And so when they got a team, I think you had a lot of people who weren't really hockey fans, but there was just like some local pride in, yes, we are. And I think that really helps those types of towns when people tell you are like Cleveland, right? But Cleveland's got multiple teams, so it's not even fair to them. But when people, you're not a big time sports market. They're like, screw you. We sell this. We've got the best Browns fans are great. Cleveland's a great place to watch a baseball game.
Well, do you think, for example, you and I, if instead of the Sacramento Kings had been there, it had been like the Sacramento Red Wings, and it had been a hockey team, and like when we were in high school and those Weber teams started dominating, that team had started dominating. Would we probably be more into hockey? Probably,
yeah, I think
right?
so. Yes.
100%.
Yes, because I think that's where there's a difference between, do you have 3 sports teams in your market or do you have 1?
Well, when I moved to Philly and I worked with guys that were from the Philadelphia area, obviously they were football people, but they were big Phillies fans, they were big Sixers fans, but they also always had hockey takes. Like Ramsey's like, God, just not getting it done in the second line. We got fucking, what the hell's this coach doing? Like the gentleman, they had, I don't have hockey takes. I don't have. And I think the majority of sports fans in America, unless you grew up in a hockey town, don't have hockey takes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But the hockey fans that exist are really hardcore.
They're very passionate. That's where
great fan bases.
It's going to be. I wonder, like, do the Golden Knights, do they even factor into the way people are going to, because the NFL is just so popular. It's such a big sport.
I don't know. I think one thing that complicates it is everyone's been to Vegas many times, and so you have opinions of Vegas, but the Vegas that you attend is not the Vegas that is, like, that's not really, right? Vegas is like Henderson and all these other, but it's not where people live, the places that we hang out.
But I think, remember, the average NFL stadium, remember when they moved, one of the stories was, depends on like 7% out of town.
Right.
It was a tiny percentage. Now,
like their projections, yeah.
Yeah, in like a 65 or a 90-mile radius outside of that, right? So I think just Sacramento wouldn't count if you're going to a Niner or Raider game. But like guys coming from maybe it was out of state, right? Was that it?
I think it was, yeah, maybe it was out of state. It was
Because
definitely
I just remember
it was just
people from a far distance coming to
out
your
of towners.
game. And the average NFL fan stadium was relatively a single-digit number, and the Raider number was like 30%, which makes sense because when you think of Vegas, it's a great example. I've never been to Chicago, I've never been to, Charlotte. Like I haven't been, but I would imagine if you went to all these places that some guy, I've never been to San Francisco, or I've never been. Most people would say once they hit a certain age mark, I've been to Vegas, right? It's just one of those towns. Everyone's kind of flown in. You go for fun, and maybe they are right. Maybe a lot of people are going to come in because to see other teams. I do think it'll help. I mean, it always helps, but there is tangible pressure on this team given the way that town kind of operates. Like part of the reason Frank Sinatra or Elvis or whoever can end their career because they're a big fucking deal. Now the NFL's a big deal. the Raiders have not, fans are going to get mad at it, haven't been a big deal the last 17 years, right? They just haven't because you can't lose all the time. And it's just impossible. It's not, even be like, well, the Cowboys made the playoffs 4 times in the last decade. It's just, so they have to win. Or, I mean, they don't technically have to. I just think it could get kind of weird fast.
Yeah. It's if you arrive with a big bang and give everyone a reason to get invested early, now you've got some loyalty.
Now, it doesn't mean you can't make money, right? Because Jed lost right away there, and he was
2 different things. But that's why I say what's good for the team is not what's good for the franchise. The franchise, as long as they're selling everything out, doesn't matter where those fans come from.
Yeah.
That's different than what's good for the team, if we could kind of parse through it. Like, home field advantage is good for the team, right? If you were the team, you'd go, give me 35,000 only Raider fans in the building. If you're the organization, you go, nah, give me 30,000 Raiders and 45,000 everybody else. I'd prefer that.
Yeah.
So we had a Christmas game this year. I couldn't figure. It took me a minute to figure out why was Christmas on Wednesday in 2019 and Friday in 2020, and then you reminded me we've got a leap year. There's a chance, Middlekauff, what do you think about this? That the NFL will play on Christmas now for the next 4 years because we got Friday, Saturday. If they're playing Friday, then they're definitely playing Saturday, right?
Yeah. Well, they play Saturday anyway that weekend, in the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
So you got Christmas Day football for probably Sunday and then a Monday for the next 4 years.
I don't remember them doing this, but it happened this year where they've done the 26th or the 27th. Have they been doing that the last couple years?
Yeah, I
don't remember that. But I haven't maybe looked that closely, but this year it stood out to me. Is there a chance that, let's say I just had a kid, and this was going to be obviously his first year of life. So in 10 years, he will be, coming into his own as a sports fan. So in 2030. For you and I, when I think Christmas Day in sports, I think NBA. Mm-hmm. I think like Michael Jordan growing up, and then Kobe and Shaq. I remember what a big deal it was for the Kings to play the Lakers, and then Kobe forever, and then LeBron forever, and then when the Warriors got good, it's just, you just know who's playing the main game. It's your 2 best teams / your 2 best stars, typically, right? Or your best rival or whatever's going on for like that kind of lunch window for us on the West Coast. I think it's like 12:30 here, 3:30 on the East Coast. To me, when I think the best game. Is there a chance that in like 10 years we think like the NFL is synonymous with Christmas? Now, it'll be fascinating. Like, could they make their schedule work around like a Wednesday or Tuesday game? Be a little more difficult. But if this thing's a hit, which, how's it not? It's Saints-Vikings. So it's going to be a good game. And you could, again, I think put like Jaguars on a Christmas Day, and you would dwarf the NBA ratings just to begin with. I think it's fair to say they did this on purpose, right? They saw an opportunity because typically if Christmas was just shmishmish and it wasn't anything, I don't think they would be playing on Friday. I'm just saying if the day didn't even have a name, if the day was just nothing.
Yeah.
If the day was just Christmas was on Wednesday, I don't think they would have done this, right?
Well, this last year it was on Wednesday. They didn't do it.
Yeah. But so are you in agreement that they specifically went out of their way to put a game on that once they realized that Christmas was on Friday?
Yeah, look, if Christmas was a Sunday, no one would blink twice or blink once. Think about it. You wouldn't, right? Even Saturday. Friday is, yes, I think it's the perfect kind of combination of it's close enough to what they normally do that it's not crazy to try. Like if the first time they tried it was Wednesday, be like, what are you guys, or like a Tuesday.
Or Tuesday.
Like, what is this, the Mac? You're not the Mac. So Friday is perfect in that it's close enough that you can try it and it's not crazy to try, but it's also a departure from what you do normally to the degree that it does get everybody's attention. And you're right. 2019 might have been the last year that the NFL didn't play on Christmas for the rest of our lives.
I think it's fair to say that when someone tweeted it probably got forwarded to someone in the NBA league office, that their eyes were like, what? That it was just one of those moments where they did a double take and someone forwarded it to Adam. I don't even know if he even knows what's going on, but I just think this was a moment where the NBA, like I don't think the NFL even cares about them. They're just seeing a holiday. They're going to try to just dominate it.
Right.
Or if you're the NBA, you're like, holy shit. Because who's to say, guy?
I know what you're going to say.
I'm a little shocked they didn't put multiple games on Thursday, aren't you?
Try
or
one,
Friday.
and then if it works, then you try 2, and then if that works, then you try 3.
But if I was in charge, I'd be fascinating if Roger or whoever the schedule, like, I understand maybe not do like 3 like Thanksgiving, but wouldn't it have been pretty easy to do 2? Or are you just trying to be like, give your team Christmas, but they're all playing on Sunday, so they're still practicing that day, right? Why wouldn't you put 2 games? I'm a little flummoxed by that.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Just because you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because they're playing Saturday that week.
Yeah, they are playing. It might just be a lot. Right, you're working with all these different combination of games. So I'm looking like New Orleans is coming off a home game and Minnesota's coming off a home game, right? And then they both go play road games the next week.
I got a question.
Maybe there's just a lot to.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Do you have one of the Minnesota Saints schedule up right now?
Yeah.
Are they just play on a 4-day practice week? Like, do they play on Sunday? How does that work?
Yeah, so I've got Minnesota plays Chicago week 15.
Sunday afternoon or whatever.
Yeah, then plays Christmas at New Orleans, then plays at Detroit the following week.
So it would be, you don't want to make too many teams.
Yeah, you don't want to make too many, and it might just be too hard to like. Maybe you say to yourself, "We want both teams coming off a home game," and just
you could argue if you were them, you wouldn't want to play on Christmas. You're like, I got to play a Thursday game, which everyone does, and I got to play this Friday game. No one else has to do the Friday game.
But
couldn't you argue if you were?
I don't think they play a Thursday. I think this is their Thursday game.
It is. Okay, that would make sense then.
Yeah, I think this is their Thursday game.
Okay. Well, then, if I was another team, they get an extra day, and we got to play.
Friday's better than Thursday, John.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Christmas becomes like everyone wants that to be their midweek game.
Well, if you were Sean Payton, would you rather play just a random Thursday night game throughout the year or play on Christmas and get the extra day of prep?
At week 16, by the way.
You would 1,000,000%
because Thursday night games
Christmas.
stop week 15.
Okay, so this makes a little more sense. It'd be a little more complicated. Tuesday or Wednesday, the NBA's in the clear. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, they're screwed. Right?
Yeah, but moving forward, why wouldn't you just you could still find a way. Now
manipulate it like a Monday night.
But nobody has
Tuesday.
a bye after week 13, so that'd be hard to do like a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a little complicated.
I mean, you can find a way.
We played Monday, Tuesday, and the next week Sunday.
Yeah, well, but soon week 16 there'll be a week 18. So
true.
You move the bye week back.
See a new high school football coach?
Do you want to talk about that or Earl Thomas? Yeah, we'll start with that.
Really quick, Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
Just because
have you watched the press conference?
I did not. I just saw the picture.
I haven't either. I heard it's a good
in
press
the team
conference.
polo. It probably is really good. Two things really jumped out.
Or maybe it wasn't. Was there a press conference? How could there?
Yeah, I think it was introducing him as their coach in waiting.
Okay.
Is that if I was a kid right now, if I was a ninth grader, I was going into my ninth grade year, so I was going to play JV football. Can you imagine how fucking cool it would be to go? It'd be a lot of staffs all over the country have a guy that played at Boise State, that played at Miami, that played at a lot of college football players eventually kind of coach high school.
I think Chad Johnson coaches in L.A.
Yeah, Jason Taylor coaches the team, St. Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, who's the guy? John Kitna, right? He was a really good high school coach.
Coach at Davis High School where we went played at Boise State. Like it's normal to me. I bet most high school staffs have a guy that played in some.
Tim McDonald was the coach at Edison High School in Fresno forever.
It's another level to get. I bet there's a decent percentage of like a dude that got from Nebraska, got a cup of coffee, whatever, moved home, runs a car dealership, also coached the high school football team. It's another thing to have Phillip fucking Rivers, who is a 15-year, 16-year NFL starting quarterback, who's gotten to like 8 Pro Bowls, who you've watched a million times if you're a kid or that parent. That's badass. Be like, Phillip Rivers is going to be my high school coach? And then they go, well, actually, we're going to have a lot of transfers coming in, so you might not be able to cut it here.
Well, what was the deal with wasn't Josh McCown like backing up?
He was the coordinator though.
Yeah, he wasn't the head coach. But did he miss any high school games, or was he making it to every high school game?
I didn't look into it. How would he possibly have made every high school game?
Well, I mean, they're Friday nights. Like, you can make it, right?
short. How's
Depends
he
on where you
practicing
are.
during the week?
Well, you're
What's
not.
he doing during the week?
But think about it, you're an NFL quarterback for your whole career. How easy is a high school practice?
True.
Film study. Well, again, when they run the veer.
I give Philip credit that everyone said this is what he was going to do, and I was like,
pretty awesome.
we'll see. And then he just no, he was not bullshitting.
Well, he's always.
anybody.
I guess he said in this press conference, there's two things I wanted to be when I was a kid: an NFL player and a high school coach like my dad. And that's why
I think Philip Rivers is a badass.
That's pretty awesome. It is kind of funny too, right? That you've got Brady who's trying to play forever, and then you've got Breeze and Rivers who have basically set up their farewell tours, like pre-retired, have set up their jobs afterwards.
If I told you this right now, Guy Haberman, you are going to get an NFL package. You're going to be calling games. I give you two choices right now. You can pick Drew Brees to work with you or Philip Rivers. You got 10 seconds to make a decision. Who would you choose?
Rivers.
Because he'd give you the better chance to be like, you guys could be special, right?
Yeah.
You go, this guy could take me to the moon. I think you wouldn't like hate life with Drew Brees. He'd probably be solid. His ceiling to me is like John Lynch. People are going to like him, be solid. But you'd always be like, does this guy want to kind of go back and run a team? Does this guy want to do other things? Rivers, to me, would just be like, this is awesome. You might have him be the next John Madden.
Yeah.
And I think he would have been, I just think he would have been a star, man. And clearly he's not, he's told us all what he was going to do, and then he's backed it up. It's just Drew Brees, like, I'm not uncomfortable with it, but I thought it was always kind of weird. It's like, why is he signing a year early? It's just kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like, Drew, they're going to sign you whenever the fuck you want to get signed. Maybe it was like a take it or leave it offer type thing.
Well, no, but I wonder if it's part of NBC's negotiations with if there's TV contract implications where they had to say like, look, this is why you should keep us as premium because we.
But can't you always kind of find sweet guys? Maybe it's a little more difficult. Probably not. You're right. Because look, how many people have called Rivers? He's like, yeah, I'm going to go high school. I'm not going to do it.
Pretty awesome.
Could Rivers do both though?
I mean, yeah, he could.
Would it be difficult?
But I don't think it'd be easy, especially for the head coach. Yeah, I think it'd be difficult. If you want to really do you really want to be the coach of this team and like be around the team every day, which I'm guessing is what he wants.
I think it's really cool.
It's awesome. Yeah. So I try, and I've done a pretty good job of quarantine and not using my phone to wake me up, because that's what I've always done. Is like you roll over, you're kind of tired. You open up the phone, and because it blasts your eyeballs, it just within 2 or 3, you can just wake up faster. But it's not good. Like I don't think the first thing I do in the morning should be just like put Twitter into my head. So I've done a pretty good job of not doing that.
Better man than me.
But I don't. I've done. I had my best stretch was like 4 or 5 days in a row where I got out of bed, didn't look at Twitter, brush your teeth. Not brush my teeth, but get coffee, whatever, and then just give myself like 10, 15 minutes. But it's been back and forth. So Thursday morning I wake up, and usually the first thing you see is like Wednesday night's tweets, or it's usually not like you wake up at 7 and you see 7 a.m. You usually see like, oh, that's funny, and then I'm gonna retweet it, but then it's like, oh no, that was 13 hours ago, right?
Yeah.
So Thursday morning I wake up and I see a tweet from you, and I'm like, is he fucking high? Why did you tweeted like, we're gonna find out after Corona that all the players are having orgies. And I almost texted you like, bro, what are you? Like, I know you might have a few drinks again on Twitter, but were you drunk last night? I hadn't seen the Earl Thomas story yet. So I'm like, what is Middlekauff talking? Like, what happened to him last night?
No, my question was, I think I originally tweeted, it's going to be fascinating to see if Twitter shames Earl Thomas for breaking quarantine for an orgy or gives him the benefit of the doubt because his wife put a gun to his head.
Yeah.
Or there was another one I did. A future of 30 for 30.
Yes, that's the one I saw, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
What if
I know
I
he had
told
an edible
you?
every once in a while, but did he go next level? Is he on coke? Is he on mushrooms? What is he doing?
You agree when you click on the TMZ story and just read through it.
But I hadn't seen any of that, John. All I'd seen is there's going to be a 30 for 30 about orgies, and I'm like, bro, are you? And then within like 15 seconds, I catch up, like, oh, okay. And then it's like you try to. I can't even figure out. Earl's wife,
his brother,
tracked him down. First you're like, the women confront him. So I'm like, the women confront him with other women.
Well, she brings some friends.
But I didn't realize that. I just thought there was like, why does she have friends with her? I couldn't figure out why did she have friends with her.
Well, have you ever watched like
what a story.
like any show that has police involved or military, when they ping the phones and they can find where you are by where your phone pings, in a general area. I guess, I didn't know this, you can ping with Snapchat. She was able to find his location by signing into his Snapchat, because that's where he, texts with his chicks on the side, finds him. So not just finds, the general area, like the CIA. She finds, the apartment or the hotel. It's incredible.
John, Airbnb.
And then busts in. That's what it was, an Airbnb?
Yeah.
And then to go in, we've all seen, even if you've never held a gun, we've all seen enough movies where you take out the clip and you empty the chamber, right? Because when you put the clip in, the bullet loads in the chamber, right? It's funny as it is, because the result, orgy, the brother or the wife, there could have been a story less than a month ago that Earl Thomas had his head blown off, because the triggers are not, there was no safety on. That was one thing in the article. Kind of crazy also. It just must be Earl's first reaction as just a football player is probably attack. Mine is roll over, run. He attacks the gun. That's fucking nuts, guy.
Well, think about how many times.
What if the bullet? How about this one? Let's say he hits it and the gun goes off and shoots one of the random, prostitutes or whatever. He's having an orgy. Maybe they're not. Maybe there's chicks on the side. Maybe not doing it for money. Yeah. What if he shot his brother in the leg, or what? Who knows?
Well,
the story could have been absolutely insanity.
Think about just how easy it is to have a misunderstanding, right? Especially then a misunderstanding, or just when emotions are high. And so you're going there's a bullet in that chamber. No, there's not. Yes, there is. No, there's not. And then it's well, fuck you. I'm going to prove to you there's not a bullet in this chamber. Click. Oh, fuck. That's over. Yeah, I thought the same thing. The other thing I thought was, if you're the Ravens, because didn't you tell me you saw the Ravens are trying to, as of the recording of this podcast?
Well, I think Florio tweeted out that they are looking into, there were stories last year. I think they regretted the signing.
Which is what,
if they could get out of his $10 million guaranteed with cause, because he didn't. I think I read a couple days ago, they had no clue. He didn't tell him shit. He hid this, which to me is somewhat on Earl Thomas. I'm sorry, your wife gets arrested, you do have to reach out to your organization, right? This wasn't just even if you didn't do anything.
Well, even he says in his video, my agent told me this is about to hit TMZ. So he thought maybe for. What day did it happen, and what day it came out Wednesday night? What day did it happen?
April 13th.
Oh, so they did keep it quiet for a pretty long time.
Yeah, this didn't happen a week ago. This happened a while ago.
That's right, because he says in the video, we're talking now. You just try to. My favorite part was you just try to live your best life, and sometimes you trip up.
Yeah, it's I mean, the funniest part, obviously, is being naked with your brother with a bunch of chicks. And then it gets to the point where it's hard for anyone to shame about tweeting because she almost shot him in the face. It's got a lot of elements to the story.
The NFL part of the story is, like you said, he didn't break any laws.
Nope, he didn't do anything wrong.
The one thing I thought reading,
I don't think he's suspendable, right?
No, he's not suspendable. But is he out of shape? Is his wife right? He was drinking a lot. Is he? If I'm the Ravens, I'm well, are you out of shape? Because we didn't think you were great last year. To your point, if he is,
high school sweetheart, they've been together for a long time.
Oh, really? But they only got married recently.
Yeah, but they've been together since 2006. Or they started dating in 2006, when they were young in high school.
Gotcha. If he's a Pro Bowl player, then they're not even thinking about it. They're not as mad.
No.
They're what it shows you is they've been looking for a reason. They wished, and now they weren't even looking for a reason. They were just we're stuck with them, and then something fell in their lap.
I understand if you're them, you can't not tell me about this if you're on the team. You have to reach out to us and let us know, even in quarantine, right?
Yeah,
your wife gets arrested in domestic violence.
Even if he had told them, they still might have tried to find a way to cut him if they thought they could.
I also think there's an element, and the one thing I was tweeting kind of making fun of, I think common people, including myself, because I don't know people that, at least I don't know of people that tell me they do these things, that just famous people, rich people, especially young athletes and young actors, are doing things behind closed doors that I think would blow us all away. If you told me this was just a normal night for Seth and Earl, when they just blow off steam, they got these chicks where I don't even know where this was. Was it in Texas? Was it in Baltimore?
Yeah, I don't know.
Seattle, wherever they were. Yeah, it's just they got the group. Seth brings them over, and it's all on like Donkey Kong at the Airbnb.
There's
How many Airbnbs are used as just like a brothol for famous people?
I don't know, flop houses.
Jesus.
I went down. I was watching some. I went down like a John Mulaney YouTube rabbit hole the other day, stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't really watched a lot about him, and somebody told me, "Oh, you got to watch Mulaney." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I knew he'd been a writer for SNL for a long time, and I never really. So I come across this SNL with him and Pete Davidson, where they're on Weekend Update as themselves, and they're talking about threesomes, and Pete Davidson's like, "I've had one," and Mulaney's like, "I've had none." But it was just great. I'd like, Pete, you're like, Pete, go on. Like, well, tell me more.
And I'd say,
And
like,
if you'd said how many threesomes have Pete Davidson's had, I would have been like 7.
Yeah, if you would have said over under 9.5, I would have taken the over.
Yeah,
right?
weekly.
I actually heard an interview one time with Pete Davidson, I think with Howard. He's a pretty interesting guy.
He is.
Honestly, I was like, I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he's funny.
I kind of judged him just on, I don't know, the look. I don't even know why. And then I heard the interview. I'm like, God, I'd fucking hang out with this guy.
Yeah, he's got a judge.
He's more normal, I think, than probably people assume based on the comedian, the look, and the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I think he's got issues, and he's very open about them, and so I think he's really.
His dad was killed in 9/11, correct?
His dad was killed in 9/11, but then even just beyond that, I think he's like, had major depression issues, drug issues, whatever. Like,
but don't you think like you lose your dad at a young age, it all kind of leads into certain things?
Yeah, but he's really open about it. I think he's very relatable for people. He makes, he's the butt of a lot of his own jokes. He's got a Judd Apatow. I just saw it today, The King of Staten Island. There's a Judd Apatow movie coming out starring him.
You see the new Seinfeld stand-up?
I did.
Pretty funny.
I really liked it.
Yeah, he's funny.
It was good. Yeah. I liked one of my favorite things was that he says there's only 2 things, sucks or great. And there's no in between, and they're really close to each other. Like the restaurant you went to, it either sucks or it was great. Because that's how I feel, John. Right? Like, did I say this on this show the other day?
I don't think so.
It's either sucks or great. Maybe I meant to. That like
maybe you did.
That's what when I did my Yelp. When I started doing, once I said I was doing my Yelp reviews. It's either sucks or great. That's it. Like that's a Seinfeld thing. And I just want to do the great. And the sucks is really close.
I agree with them though. Like. And I look for this. If you're like, the sandwich is pretty solid there. I'm like, let's go eat that. That's all you need.
Eat it? It doesn't have to be the greatest sandwich you've ever eaten. It's just, do you want it? That's good enough for me.
Yeah, Jerry had a good point. He's like, listen, the difference between sucks and great, like, our lives are not that much different. Like, my life's a little better than yours, but the difference in you and me isn't as big as you think. Yeah, I got a little more money or whatever. He had a great line. I remember Jerry Jones, when they were on one of the first Hard Knocks, he opens up the team meeting. It's like, Jerry, why are you opening up the team meeting? Where he's like, I could be anywhere in the world, but I'm here with you. And Jerry said that. He's like, I could be anywhere in the world. I'm here with you. How many of you guys would be sitting here if you were in my position? And he's like, not many.
Yeah.
But he's like, for whatever sick reason, I love being here.
Yeah.
Because I like hanging out with you guys. Because it's not even really hanging out. You don't even get to hang out with me, but I get to say I did some things.
Right.
I got to hang out with
you love, the woman's like, I love you. He's like, I love you too. You love me. I love you. It's the best relationship we'll never meet.
He's dead on too. And it is clearly shot before quarantine. How everyone wants to say, like, I did something. Like, I went out. I went to get dinner, but then like halfway through, you're like, I'm ready to go home.
Yep.
But you want to be able to say, like, I went out, but then you don't really want to be out. He's hilarious.
He is. Go watch that.
He's still got his fastball.
This video's great. Like it.